Fuck you and all your chakras. Working out, doing yoga, eating healthy. Working out, doing yoga, eating healthy. Yeah. Yeah, hey, how you doing? How you guys doing? That was the Waxes podcast jingle by Joseph. It's as simple as that, folks. Not everything has to be complicated. Not everything has to have a last initial. Not everything has to have a name that has more significance than Joseph. And you know what? I take that back because the name Joseph has a lot of significance. You know that's my middle name? My middle name is Joseph. My middle name is Joseph. Can I tell you more things about myself? Tell you more things about myself. Tell you more things about myself. My middle name is Joseph. I think I sang that in 2 keys, but if you think there's no significance to the name Joseph, you clearly haven't read the Bible. Joseph. I didn't mean to talk about this, but I know that some people have talked about this. Somebody has a comedy routine about this, but I'll keep it simple to avoid extreme biting. But Joseph is kind of like... Joseph is kind of the biggest sucker in history. I mean, imagine your girl came to you pregnant and be like, yeah, well, I know I haven't let you fuck me. I know that hasn't happened yet. You know, I'm saving myself for marriage. And, you know, maybe they'd be with you, maybe be with somebody else, but I'm pregnant. And he's like, so, like, who was it? And she's like, well, don't, you know, hold on to your hat. Hold on to your fucking robe, sandals, and if they had hats back then, that. Hold on to it because this is almost unbelievable. The story I'm about to tell you is almost unbelievable, but hold on to your hat, sandal, and robe because God had sex with me. He didn't really have sex with me because technically I'm still a virgin. He just implanted his baby inside of my stomach. But his baby is also him, and it's also everything around us that's the spirit that's watching us that exists everywhere. So to wrap it up, I know you look confused, Joseph. I know you look confused, and that seems a little unbelievable. But to wrap it up into one nice little package, I'm having God's baby, who is also God, who is also the Holy Spirit, which is everything around us, but I've never had sex yet. You want to stay with me and fucking do all the other stuff that's demanded of fatherhood, except have sex with me? And because of Mary's... I guess maybe he will, you know, I guess you can't be pussy whipped if you're not getting pussy, but there's, I guess for guys that want to have sex with a girl bad enough, they're just about willing to do anything, even accept the fact that God, I don't know. It's unbelievable. If any of that really happened, it's like, all right, who's Jesus' dad really? Who's really the father, Maury? They had Maury Povich back there during that day. There have been some other Bethlehem village idiot, the drunken village idiot of Bethlehem, whose kid it was. Maury would have revealed the test. Then God wouldn't have been there to answer for himself. It'd be an empty seat. It'd be like, this is God and the Holy Spirit as he sits right here. And then the village idiot would be like, God damn it, it is mine. Thought maybe this crazy tale she was telling was correct. Well, I knew it wasn't correct because I know. Well, did I? I don't know. I was pretty fucked up that night. Been drinking a lot of myrrh and whiskey. A lot of frankincense gin. I don't know what fucking mixed drinks they drank back then. They just drank wine probably. But who is Jesus' dad really? Probably the drunken village town idiot. What a story. And because Joseph believed all that story, now we have this crazy religion. Which we are about to celebrate. The biggest holiday of the year, Christmas. Christmas. Because of this fatherless or fatherful, My Three Dads, I guess, would be the show about Jesus' fatherhood. Wacky little sitcom. Jesus comes out, and then his three dads come out. His first God, then the Holy Spirit, then Jesus comes out again. And he holds up one of those, I don't know. This is crazy and wacky. I wish I could, you can't see what I'm doing. But when his third dad comes out, and it's actually himself, it's a crazy plot twist. And the laugh track is uproarious. I didn't mean to talk about this today. I guess the only reason I'm even talking about any of this is because I happened to choose the jingle that was played by a dude named Joseph. But, come on, dude. Virgin had the baby of God. I can't fucking believe that most of our country believes that, and that almost every holiday we celebrate is based on that. This whole crazy story of what happened 2,000 years ago that is the biggest story that guides all our lives. And it's like there's a million questions that are unanswered. First of all, well, what about before that? 2,000 years ago, that's really not that long ago if you think about it in comparison to how the history of the entire earth and human population. What about all the people before that? What was there like? How were they supposed to be saved? That's my first question. There's a million other questions, but, I don't want to, I'm sure maybe some of you guys believe in all that stuff, but I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy that we just take things to be what our parents and society gives us. There's probably, considering the fact that, in Jesus' time, people thought the earth was flat. So what do we think right now what do we take as a norm in society that just like in 1,000 years from now, people will think it's crazy that we believed? I don't know. But I will say that I think in 100 years from now, maybe even less than that, maybe 30 years from now, I think people will look back at the period of time between the 1920s and the 2000 and whenever this ends, probably 2030s, maybe even 2020s. I'll look back at this time as a crazy period in that hundreds and thousands, over that amount of time, probably billions of people died in car accidents. It'll be unthinkable that people actually controlled their own vehicles and just wrecked into each other drunkenly. Because it's the biggest cause of death. I think after heart disease, the leading cause of death is car accidents. And eventually in the future, there will be no such thing as car accidents. And if there was ever a car accident, it would be a major car accident because the whole system got a virus or something like that. Anyway, I'm out here. We out here. I'm out here as well as you listening. I don't know where you're out there at. But I'm out here in Sherman Oaks, California, reporting to you live from the heart of the current fires. The wildfires that are going on right now. There's one up in Ventura. There's one up near Sylmar. There's one pretty close to me over in Bel Air. It's not that far from where I live. And I sent, in the last couple hours, I think there's some down in San Diego, too. I'm starting to wonder if this is like an arson situation, honestly. Seems a little coincidental. Then again, that's how fires work. One starts and it starts another one. The wind blows, takes an ember downstream, and starts another one. But it's pretty crazy. 2 days ago, due to the fire in Sylmar, even though the fire was pretty far away, the way the wind traveled, all the smoke and all the ash was like in my town. And 2 days ago, it looked fucking, when you walked outside, it was apocalyptic looking. Like you would choke. There's ashes all over cars. And the sky looked gray. But it was just for that day. Now it seems to be clearing up. But who knows? Those Santa Ana winds will get you, boy. Those Santa Ana winds will get you. But the one thing that these local fires have got me doing that I haven't done in a long time is watching a shitload of local news. Just trying to get updates. I'm worried about the safety and the safety of my fellow citizens. Trying to get updates, evacuation notices, school closings, things of that nature. So I'm watching the local news, which in an emergency situation like this, you can usually find going on at just about any time. Because if you watch CNN or MSNBC or Fox News, they're not talking about the fires in the way I need to hear about them. They might mention it casually after talking about some political shit, but they're not talking about the way I need it to be talked about. I need it to be talked about in a local way. So I've been watching a lot of local news. And I forgot how silly local news can be. Yesterday there was a reporter. She was out by Ventura, out near Ojai. Which, by the way, I hate to be dude, this shit really is catastrophic. Hundreds of thousands of acres. I don't know the number, but a shitload of acres. Tons of people have lost their houses. I don't think there's been any deaths yet, miraculously. But it's been a crazy situation out here. But it's just funny that I saw this reporter. She goes up to like the Ventura area as far as she could get before like the firefighters have it closed off. I think it was like Santa Clara or Santa Paula, Santa something. Santa Rosa? I don't know. I think it was Santa Paula. And she's just at a gas station. And this reporter, she has the full suit of a firefighter on. She's standing at a gas station and she's just like, let's talk to some local residents. And it's just like the first person she talks to is like 45-year-old lady getting gas. It's like, this is Gabrielle Lopez. And it cuts to her face and she's just like, yeah, I don't know much about what's happening, but, I live up around here. So I hope that everybody's going to be safe. I mean, yeah, I don't really know exactly where the fire is or where it might go. Yeah, I don't know. And I swear to fucking God, first of all, the person interviewing her was wearing fucking a full fireman suit. Minus the hat. This lady had like a tank top and flip-flops and shit on. She was just getting gas, man. And they interviewed a bunch of other quote-unquote eyewitnesses at the quote-unquote scene. The scene was the nearest gas station where News Channel 7 or whatever could get to, close to the fire. And they interviewed like 4 other people that were just like that. Just like worthless information. Not experts. They're just people getting gas. It just seems so old school. It's been a long time since I watched local news. I forgot about those kind of interviews where they just go, something happened and they just go to get an interview from somebody in the street. Sometimes like in the internet age, those things go viral. Remember, ain't nobody got time for that? Ain't nobody got time for that. So that was wacky. That was quite a wacky occurrence that occurred to me, that happened to me. What else was that? I drove up by the fire today. I actually had to go to the bank today. My bank is really close to that Skirball. I lived in LA 10 years. I don't even know how to pronounce that fucking word. Skirball? The Skirball fire across the 405 from the Getty Center in Bel Air. Very rich area full of nice homes, many of which were burned in the fire. It's a goddamn shame. Get a multi-gazillion-dollar home, have it burn in a fucking fire. That's why I wouldn't get my house in a fire area. But then again, pretty much the whole region is a fire area. You can't predict that shit. But I went up there. I didn't see any smoke or anything today. It seemed like it was pretty contained. And I'm sure somebody listening to this podcast in a year from now will give a lot of shits about this. Went into my bank to deposit a check. Like I always do, you know what I'm saying? And another thing about living in Sherman Oaks, besides being surrounded by wild, ravaging fires, is that there's a genre of human being that you often see. It's common amongst bank tellers at my bank, but the one today was a little past the norm. There's a genre of person in Sherman Oaks, California, you'll see at the bank. You'll see at Starbucks a lot. I'm sure you would see at a gym, although they might have their own gyms they go to. I don't know. If you go to the mall, if you go to the Sherman Oaks Mall, they're everywhere. It's a 40 to 60-year-old Persian or Armenian, kind of Russian maybe lady who's dressed really nicely, but the thing is she has a lot of plastic surgery. As compared to most places in the country, you just, like where I live, you see a lot of older women with plastic surgery. And the only reason I bring it up, I know this is not supposed to be offensive, but the reason I bring it up is because this lady had it, she had like just gotten her lips done. And they were stiff, man. They were stiff and duck-like. They were like they were like if you took a ski jump. I mean, obviously it wasn't as big as an actual ski jump, but I'm just talking about shape-wise, and made it. It's like a mushroom, like a. What shape would that be? Yeah, I guess like a ski jump that went around like a mushroom. Like if you took, I don't know how to describe the shape. Picture a cylinder, and on top of the cylinder, it was like a ski jump that went around. I don't know. My point is that she had a crazy ass lip job that was just insane. I shouldn't even be talking about it because it's such a visual thing. And I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. I think this thought might die, but my point is that I started to feel bad for her because I think in a lot of these, I think especially amongst this culture, not only is this going to be offensive, but to people with plastic surgery, but it's also now going to veer into racist territory. God, I can't even talk today because I'm being so self-conscious about how offensive I'm about to be. I think in this culture of it's kind of Armenian-ish culture where everybody wears really gaudy jewelry and drives nice cars and expensive clothes, and the dudes always have a shitload of cologne, the girls have a shitload of perfume, and it's very like gender role-ish, but even the dudes are like, they're like the toughest dudes, but they dress like so like Euro femme. I don't know. But I think in this culture, what you'll see is, I think a lot of the women in this culture, when they're young and they're beautiful, and then they get their husband, and then they get old as everybody does. And then what happens to a lot of people, I think this happens with both genders, when people that are extremely beautiful, since the time they hit puberty, you really form your personality from the age of like, this is my opinion, but for me, I really formed my personality in like college age, like I feel like when you're in high schoolish, when you're like in your teens, you're kind of like being what everybody thinks you're supposed to be. But you're discovering stuff. You're discovering what music you like, and you're discovering all this shit. But a lot of it's based on what other people are doing and what your parents expect of you, what your friends expect of you. Then you get to be like in your 20s, especially in your early 20s, you become the person who you are. And I think when people are too attractive, your personality is actually partially based on that. That people kind of worship your beauty, and people kind of treat you differently because of your beauty, and who you are as a person is a hot person. And I only say this because I got to imagine that, like, if you start to lose that, it's got to be pretty traumatic. I think aging is more traumatic for beautiful people than it is for people that are not beautiful like that. Like if you're a man and you're just like you're really good looking and you've got fucking beautiful, and you start to go bald, it's got to be more traumatic than if nobody really ever been looking at you like that anyway. You're just like, fuck it, I just shaved my head. If you're a woman and you start to get wrinkles, Because people notice that because everybody's looking at you for how beautiful you are. You start to hear the chatter in the back of your head. You start to hear all the background chatter. What do you think people are saying about you? You know, you leave the beauty salon over there in the Sherman Oaks Mall. What's the salon lady going to talk to with the next, I don't know I can't make fun of Armenian names because I don't know them well enough. Anyway, I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about, man. This is really boring and uninteresting, I feel like. But sad nonetheless. Just get old, man. I was thinking the other day, when you watch a basketball game, in the first, second, and third quarter, people are just kind of playing like it's nothing, wasting time, dribbling around, having fun, shooting, passing, whatever, just taking all the shot clock, taking all the game clock. Who cares? Big whoop. Just do what you do. And then the fourth quarter comes around, especially by the end of the fourth quarter, and time starts to become really valuable. Time starts to become precious. People start doing the shit where they roll the ball down the court. So they waste every precious they save every precious second until the guy is forced to pick up the ball. They're calling timeout, fouling people. And then they get to that last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, if it's a close game, and every minute, every second, every 0.1 second is precious. And it's like, why didn't they play the entire game like that? I feel like that's life, dude. When we get to our 70s, I don't know if people feel that sense of emergency. People feel like, oh, I didn't fucking do this. I never did that. I never went to Europe. I never fucking, I don't know if people feel it like that and they just feel sad and depressed that they never did all the shit they do. I don't know if people just try to get a bunch of shit done or if people are just kind of too old to do what they want to do or if you just appreciate little things more. I think that's what it is. I think some people, like when you go to a park and you see people feeding the birds and they're just out there feeding the birds and enjoying it. Some old people feeding the birds are old people that hang out at the diner. Just talk about the good old days. I think that the average everyday things that an older person does, they might appreciate the time more. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But when it comes to your life, you almost feel like you wish that the fourth quarter was where like the second quarter is. You feel like you kind of just wake up and then all of a sudden you're a little bit older. I don't know. I mean, obviously that happens every time you wake up. Every time you wake up, you're a little bit older, but yeah, you just get old. I don't really know what I'm talking about. How many times in this episode am I gonna say that I don't know what I'm talking about? I'm a little off with my podcasting skills recently. I feel like my mind is not sharp like it once was. But like I say all the time on this podcast, you never know how it's gonna come out. It's like making a lemon meringue pie from scratch. You just never know how it's gonna come out. You can try to make the meringue a certain way. You can try to make the lemon a certain way. But the lemon, the meringue, the crust, who knows how it's going to turn out. You might end up with the meringue on the bottom and the lemon on the top. And then you'd have to look at yourself in the mirror and say, like, what made me do this? My world is upside down. Because I used to make the lemon on the bottom. Just like you'd get it at the fucking diner. Lemon meringue pie. Can I just get a meringue pie and skip the lemon shit? Am I right? Can I just get a lemon pie and skip the meringue? Or would that just be Jell-O with pie crust? Is lemon meringue just Jell-O? No, it's not really Jell-O. It's more like if you cross Jell-O with custard, there's a middle ground, and that is the lemon section of a lemon meringue pie. It's not quite as custardy as key lime, but it's more gelatinous than that type of key lime custard. All right. With that said, let's move on to questions and shout-outs, shall we? All right. It is episode 160 of Wax's podcast. Let's do some What do we got going on here? I got the podcast is on YouTube now. I got episodes 50 through now. It's going to be 160. That's 110 episodes that are up on YouTube. I know a lot of you guys prefer listening to your podcast on YouTube, and some of you might be having trouble finding my podcast on the goddamn Apple app. I don't even know what's going on with that. The regular podcast app on the iPhone, some people say they can't find it. Some people say they can. So call Steve Jobs' whatever his replacement guy's name was. Call him and complain to him because I don't fucking know what's going on. But it's available on my website, wax.com.com. Just go there and there's a section called podcast. That's the easiest way to listen to it. If you search Google for Wax's podcast, you can listen to it on the actual site that provides my podcast, Liberated Syndication, libsyn.com, has its own site. I also have a Patreon, which I don't even put all of them on Patreon. I didn't put the last couple on Patreon because I didn't feel like I deserved to. I feel like I was so inconsistent with the podcast. I did not deserve to even charge the Patreon people. I hope that some people don't just follow my Patreon and think that I'm not doing podcasts at all. They probably are. I'm sure they are. But if you look up Wax's podcast on YouTube, you can listen to it on there now. So yeah, that's where I'm at as far as my podcast. Episode 160. If you want to donate, if you want to do the Patreon thing, I think it's Patreon/BigWax or some shit like that. I don't remember. If you look up Wax's podcast Patreon, I'm sure it's on there. You can do like every time I put out an episode, you give me $1 or something like that. I think you can do 50 cents if you want. Whatevs. Am I right? This week's shout-outs, we got Jackie Sweetleaf. We got Aaron the violinist. We got longtime listener Grant the Plant. Grant the Plant. We got Dina H. Dina H is from the show on YouTube, Bitches Who Drink Beer, who is going to be using an instrumental that I made, looks like, as her jingle on her show. We got the one and only Mike from Long Branch, New Jersey. Thank you, Mike, for your very nice email you sent me. Thank you for everybody that sent me a nice email. I don't mean to single Mike out, but I guess that's what a shout-out is. So I take back a lot of things that I've said, including that. Next off, we got Austin P. And I'm not talking about Austin Powers. I'm talking about a different Austin P, okay? For all you guys that thought Austin Powers listened to this podcast, he doesn't. He's a fictional character. Jesus. Zechariah M. Evan C. Evan C. who recommends, get this, folks, get this. This is going to knock your socks off and blow your eardrums away. This is Evan C. recommending that you take a shot of apple cider vinegar every day. Now, Evan C. says he learned this from his father, and he's been doing it for years, and he hardly ever gets sick. And you know me, here on Wax's podcast, I always thoroughly research everything that everybody tells me, whether it be a recommendation, whether it be a health recommendation, whether it be a music recommendation. I always thoroughly investigate and do the proper research before reporting to you directly from whatever person with just the last initial that I'm talking about. In this case, that was my rant that I did about 10 seconds ago was sarcastic, but what I'm saying now is actually true. I did look up a couple sites about taking this shot of apple cider vinegar every day, and it seems that Evan C. is true. It seems that Evan C. is correct, actually. It seems that if you you don't have to necessarily take a shot every morning, but sometimes you could put a teaspoon or a tablespoon, I can't remember which one, in your water when you eat. It will help you digest. Supposedly it will help you with weight loss. Supposedly it will help your liver. It's very healing for the liver, this apple cider vinegar. So, God knows I need some of that shit. All right, we got a letter. We got a fucking letter. We got a few of them, okay? This first one's from the one and only, literally the one and only Petey Machete out there in New York. He says, so I'm driving home from work and I started to laugh my ass off because on Red is one of my songs. On Red, you say, if they invented the iPhone 9 yet. Meanwhile, Apple skipped the iPhone 9 and went from 8 to 10. I don't know. Made me laugh. Anyways, got your new hoodie. Seated pound, pound. Jesus Christ. Anybody that says pound instead of hashtag shows their age. Then again, it wasn't that long ago we said pound shit. That's funny. Hashtag Seated P. Hashtag cheers to the pilot. P.S. Thank you for the shout out of my podcast. I don't know if you can do one where you say, this is Big Wax and you're listening to When Podcasts Go Wrong. If not, it's cool. I'm going to do that right now. If you didn't listen last week, PD Machete started a podcast called When Podcasts Go Wrong. So go check that out. And he's asking for a drop. I'm going to give it to you right now, PD Machete. Yo, this is Big Wax, and you're listening to When Podcasts Go Wrong. Was that not good enough? I'm going to give it to you again. Hey, this is Big Wax, and you're listening to When Podcasts Go Wrong. How was that? How was that read? Can you do it with a little bit more energy? A little bit more vivaciously? All right. This is Big Wax, and you're listening to When Podcasts Go Wrong. How was that? How about you do it more sad? We want to feel sad. This is Big Wax. And you're listening. I can't. That was perfect. Okay, so I'm driving home. Yeah. Yeah, tons of people. I might even mention this on the podcast. I've gotten tons of people have hit me up because I had a line on my song Red where I talked about ask Apple if they've invented the iPhone 9 yet. And that was in 2011. It's 2017. These motherfuckers skipped the iPhone 9 and went straight from 8 to 10. Never done that before. They had never done that before in the history of numbers between 1 and 10. The only motherfucker they skipped is 9. And you know why? I'll tell you why. It's because I'm a prophet. It's because I'm a prophet. I was born of the Virgin Mary and became man. He delivered us from evil and helped us protect his sins. There's nothing more fucking festive than the Catholic Church. Deliver us, God, and thank you for every evil. Deliver us this day our daily bread, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Mary, Father, Shepherd of Israel, do testify now with us and now at the time of our death. Amen. P.S. If our Father for us wake. It's because I'm a prophet. It's because I'm prophetic. All right, we got two people from Jacksonville today. First, we got Tommy from Jacksonville. Yo, Wax. Hope all is good. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving because you're probably going to record this after the holiday. You were right about that, Tommy. You've been very busy cranking out music lately. Caviar and now this new EP with Herbal Tea and EOM. I'm sure you're going to be even more busy now because I saw on Watsky's Instagram story the music video of Exquisite Corpse is being filmed. Oh, yeah, I'm doing that this weekend. So here's my question. Does it bother you at all that rappers like Lil Pump, Designer, and other shitty mumble rappers, this is his words, not mine, have more or less taken over the rap scene? Don't get me wrong, there are still talented and good mainstream rappers, young and old, but it bothers me how you, your brother Dumbfounded, Spose, Puya, Felly, Travis Thompson, and so many others in your genre of music don't get the credit they deserve. I can sense it changing a little bit, though. But we're not there yet. Anyways, happy Thanksgiving and be safe out there. I can't wait to see the music video for Exquisite Corpse. Tommy from Jacksonville. One of the reasons I wanted to answer this one, Tommy. Thomas, may I call you Thomas? I'm going to start doing that. Like if somebody has a nickname, I'm going to start being like, can I call you by your Hey, what's up, man? I'm Mike. Mike, can I call you Michael? One thing I wanted to say is like, I think a lot of times people don't realize how uninformed musicians are about other musicians. My brother always tells me to listen to the Lil Pump album. He loves Lil Pump. So I don't know. He says it's like just dumb hype music that gets him hype when he gets off work on Fridays. So I don't know. I got to trust his opinion. So I can't say that he's shitty when my brother keeps telling me to listen to him because his album's great. I don't know. The only thing I know by Designer is Panda. I have no idea who Travis Thompson or Felly is. I think I've definitely heard of I don't know how to pronounce it, but I've definitely heard of Puya. But my point is, I don't even know who half these people are, man. You'd be surprised how Jesus Christ, especially in the last like year. I've been listening to a lot of music, but I can't think of hardly any, especially new rap music that I listen to on the regular. The only like, I mean, I looked at Spotify does that shit where it's asks you all the music you listen to. I think the only rapper in my top was Kendrick Lamar. I think Kendrick Lamar was my most listened to artist last year. I think the other one, there was Steely Dan, Diners, this band Diners. What else was in that? Vampire Weekend. And I think the other one was Wax, because I always put on my own shit to compare it to shit and to show it to people. I think my own shit was the next one listened to. That was my top 5. I know Kendrick was number 1. I really listened to that album a good amount of times. That song "Ya" was my most listened to song last year. I probably listened to that song more than I listened to any other like I listened to that song more. Like if you add every other song in the album every time I listened to it, and then added that song every time I listened to it, I don't know what it was about that song. I listened to it a gazillion times. But my point is that first of all, I'm too old for young rappers in the top 10 or whatever to bother me, to be like, oh man, what the fuck, I should be up there. I don't even think like that anymore, dude. I'm happy to be able to even do this shit. Like I'm planning now. It looks like I'm going to do a tour in the spring, and like the fact that I can even do tours and do podcasts and not have to go to work and put out albums and EPs. And granted, obviously the EP that you're talking, but I appreciate the props, by the way, but the EP you're talking about, that ain't making money like Lil Pump and Designer and shit, but it's getting me by. It's making me so I can live in my fucking fire infested house up here in Sherman Oaks. And I feel like you get to a point where you don't think like that. You don't think like in this jealousy way, or like why is this shit popular? Because the fact of the matter is that there's always shitty music that's popular. That's always the case. We have this revisionist history attitude where like when Nas Illmatic came out, Nas Illmatic was not on the fucking radio. When Illmatic came out, the shit on the radio was Vanilla Ice and MC Hammer, maybe Kid and Play and Salt and Pepper. Not saying any of this stuff's bad or good. That's up to you to fucking decide. I'm not worried about like opinions about what's good or bad, but this music that people treasure, often during its time it's not appreciated, and then often there's always from the history of recorded music, there's always some like just candy that's hot for a second, and like the steak isn't always on top, if that makes sense. The shit that's the timeless shit isn't always the most popular at the time shit. And there's always some people that are hot for a second, and it's kind of pointless to get mad about it, So it doesn't bother me, I mean, Lil Pump is probably half my age, dude. I'm happy for people. If anything, I'm happy that people are doing what they want to do. If anything, when you get older, you get a little bit depressed about like, God damn, like, why does everybody got to talk about killing people? I get a little bit, I used to listen to music like that all the time. It hasn't changed. I used to listen to NWA, I used to listen to Wu-Tang, used to listen to, you fucking name it. Almost every fucking rapper has talked about guns and killing people. And it's like, why is that cool? Why is it cool to have why is it cool? Why is violence cool? I'll never understand that. And that's not just a hip hop thing. I'm talking about the fucking government. I'm talking about war. I'm talking about, I just don't get it, man. I don't get, I never really understood when I was a kid. I used to listen to Cypress Hill, and I used to love Cypress Hill and their music, and they would talk about smoking weed, and they'd say like they're going to get real high, but then every single song was they're going to grab an AK and go kill people. And I'm just like, when I get high, that's the last thing I want to do. But I think that's just something in the human psyche that we can't get rid of, especially the human male, We're just aggressive and violent, and we want to fucking kill each other. I don't get it. I swear to fucking God, if everybody was like me, we wouldn't do that. But that's just not the case. That is not the case. Anyway, thank you, Tommy. Hope that answered your question. I hope I didn't sound like too much of a dick. This is Travis S., who is also from Jacksonville. And he even said, talking to you, Tommy. All right. This has some praise at the beginning, too. Sup, Wax? Been a while since I checked in, but wanted to mention that I'm still enjoying the podcast each week when it comes out, as well as the new LOA EP and Caviar tracks that I've drilled into my ears numerous times. Thank you, man. Anyways, besides all that, I've also been listening to a lot of stand-up comedy. I watched your stand-up bit a while back when you posted on YouTube. Hold on. And really enjoyed it. If you haven't seen that, I have some of my stand-up comedy on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and type in Wax stand-up comedy, it should be the first thing that comes up. And it's actually a pretty good one. I think that's I think I'm better now, but the actual joke, the first couple minutes, my bit about false advertising, I think is a solid bit. I wish I could come out to the Wax and Friends one of these days to see more material and see how you've progressed as a comic. I think I need to make it more clear to people, by the way, that if you come out to see this Wax and Friends show, I'm not just doing comedy. I'm doing music at that show. Like, it's not just a comedy show. I think I need to make that clear that I'm doing music. I don't know. Then he continues. Well, what was that inspired you to do stand up? Do you have any favorite comedians in particular that you admire, and or base your style of comedy around? And do you see yourself taking stand up any further? You spread a lot of laughter through your songs in various forms of media, and just a smirk or a chuckle can go a long way in one's day. I couldn't agree more. Be safe out there till next time. P.S. I also wanted to recommend to you in the podcast a few comedians I've been listening to a lot of lately. Patrice O'Neal, Kyle Kinane, and Tom Segura. Well, thank you, Travis. Those are indeed great comedians. Patrice O'Neal is probably one of the best ever, and you could waste a gazillion hours with Patrice O'Neal stuff online where he just drops knowledge, whether it be in the form of stand-up comedy or the form of just him doing interviews and being on radio and shit like that. He's one of the greatest comic minds. Of course, he has some stuff that's offensive as fuck too. Kyle Kinane, I actually used to know a little bit. I actually used to know Kyle Kinane a little bit because he was friends with a few friends of mine. He used to do my show back in like 2009 when me and my boy Adam had a show called the Wax and Ajax Show. And I feel like occasionally, that was 2008, 2009, we had this show for like a year and a half, 2 years, where every month we'd have like, it was kind of like my show now, but me and my boy Adam Jacobs, who I really need to reconnect with. I haven't talked to him in a long time. We used to do a show that was music and comedy. And we had a couple people on there that like you'd see him and you'd be like, man, this motherfucker's probably going to be somebody. Like Eric Andre did our show. Kyle Kinane did our show a few times, I think. Can't remember who else did. I think there was some other people that are like now known in the comedy world that did our show, but I can't even fucking remember who. But as far as the comedy that I like and what made me do stand-up comedy, I've always been into it, man. I've always been a fan of stand-up comedy and comedy in general. And if you listen to some of my old songs or some of my new songs, I mean, a lot of writing raps is writing jokes. It's kind of the same muscle, especially if you write the way I write. You know, if you watch like some of the freestyles, whether it's like the New Crack and Wax Goes Bananas, like a lot of it is about analogies. And for some reason, my skill as a writer that's kind of my thing. My thing is, for some reason, I'm good at analogies. I'm looking at seeing something happen and be like, oh, that reminds me of blah blah blah. Oh, that's just like blah blah blah. Like if you watch my my food review show, Chain Reaction, that's pretty much all it is. It's like, you know what this is like? This is like that. And that's like this, and this is like that. For some reason, I'm really good at doing that, or at least people say that I'm good at doing that. So that's what a lot of my stand-up is. And I think to be a writer of any type, you're really just looking at society and kind of forming your opinion on it, and then just telling it. Either that or you're just telling a story about something that happened to you or something that happened to somebody else, or just making up some bullshit. Who knows? But you know, with the exception of like playing guitar and being in the beat, like when you really think about writing, especially in the context of a rapper, it's a very similar world to comedy in a lot of ways. You know, it's different for everybody. It might not be the same for Lil Pump. Maybe for Lil Pump and Designer, it's different. I don't know. But Yeah, I can't. I'm not like one of those people that I'm a musician, man. I do comedy, but like it's not like when I was 6 years old, I fucking watched Richard Pryor and was like, I'm gonna do that. When I was 6 years old, I watched like Guns N' Roses and said I'm gonna do that. Like music is my number one thing, and stand up is something that is. You gotta understand, man. Like I'm a creative dude, and like I don't watch sports. I don't like. Like I almost do. I do stand up the way people watch football. Like it's fun for me. It's fun to write. It's fun to perform, and but now that I've kind of mixed the shit I'm doing at my show. If you ever come to see my show, Wax and Friends, first Sunday of every month, Westside Comedy Theater, Santa Monica. The shit I'm doing now is kind of a mixture of the two. Where I'm doing some funny songs and some little like kind of like music. I don't know what the fuck it is, man. But I think what inspired me to originally start doing it, I don't know what made me do it the first time, but I can tell you that the first time I ever did stand up, I was with my boy Frank. We were at this open mic, and I've been doing music for years, and we went up to this open mic at a place called the Liquid Zoo. I think it's off Sepulveda and Victory or some shit like that, or Van Nuys and Victory. I don't know. It's in Van Nuys somewhere, not far from where I live, but they had an open mic, and I think we just kind of were like, let's go do this shit, because we were fans of comedy. And when I got up on the stage, I was so fucking timid and scared and nervous, and I think that fear kind of made me want to do it again. Like I didn't do it again for a long time after that, but the fear kind of made me want to do it. I don't know, but I just like it, man. The comedians I like, I would say my number one comedian influence is Bill Burr. Like his existence is the only reason I have a podcast in the first place. Like I started listening to his podcast and I was like, I want to do that. I want to have a podcast and just fucking talk shit. It's funny because my laziness has made my podcast more and more exactly a bite off of his podcast, because my initial intention with the podcast, of course, was to have all these crazy segments and musical guests and fucking segments where I call people and bring people, but because of laziness and I don't feel like having anybody else involved, and I just want to make it easy as possible to do the podcast, I just talk for a while and then I do these questions and shout outs, and that's pretty much the same format as his. I haven't listened to his in a while, but that's what first put me, like I found out about his shit because he does stand up, and I saw like one of his specials, and I would say he's my biggest inspiration as far as why I got into doing comedy. Then some of my best friends are comedians. My boy T-Rex is I've known him for years, and just watching him, I'm just like, watching him, it's like I don't, none of these people I don't think like, oh, I could do that, because they're really good at what they do, and I don't think that, but it kind of just makes me want to give it a shot to see if I could. It's much harder than it fucking looks, I'll tell you that. Comedy is hard as shit. I don't know. Once I moved to LA, I became friends with a lot of comedians, and I always kind of wanted to do it as soon as I joined these circles. But like, I just didn't. I don't know. I feel like also like I have a lot of opinions and I have a lot of things to say about the world, and sometimes I feel like, why the fuck does it have to rhyme? Why does it have to be in a song form and rhyme? Why can't I just goddamn say it? Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a good. I love Dave Chappelle. Recently, who was on Netflix? I love that chick Ali Wong. I loved Eddie Murphy when I was a kid. I loved Delirious. Still think it's funny, even though it kind of didn't age well. If you ever watch Eddie Murphy Delirious, you have to watch it. You can't listen to it. It's not right if you listen to it. I love Chris Rock. Chris Rock's the best. I listened to Your Mom, but anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say about that. I got one more thing. This is from Anonymous. I'm not gonna include this person's name. But they wrote this in rhyme form. They wrote this letter in rhyme form. My friend's addicted to white. So bad he's committed a private robbery. All that coke's got him living a lie like his religion is Scientology. Because he's big when he's high, but when he's missing the white, it's like they hit him with 9 lobotomies. See, he's in a disguise, really different inside, really timid and quite obviously. But sniffing the white exposed the clit that he hides, like witnessing gynecology. To cover it up, he's deliberately lying. That shit is just sly. I told him don't be listening for my apology. So if I can help and I signal it's time, then as the decision is mine, it's honestly, do you think that it is right that I give him a fright and kick him out of my private property? I believe what this person's saying is somebody that lives with them on his property, like basically his roommate, does coke a lot and stole something from him and is lying about it. And this guy's saying that should he kick him out? And my answer is I don't really know because I don't know how good of a friends with you. I don't know if you love this person or not. I don't know how good of a friend you are with him. You didn't really address that part of the thing. You didn't really say if you're how. I mean, is this your brother? Is this your best friend? Or is this just some fucking tenant? But I think that if it's your loved one, I think you should express. You should express. You should. If it's your loved one, you should address the issue. And tell him honestly, him or her. You said him. See how this PC culture has me. You should tell them that you're concerned. Be like, listen, man, I think that this cocaine is turning you into a different person that you're not, and you're becoming quite dependent on it. You need to be able to build yourself up without cocaine. Also, you stole my shit. What's up? It's fucked up. I don't want to kick you out because I love you. So let's talk. Let's address this. Let's be man, mano y mano. Let's talk, bro. Let's exchange words. Let's have a meeting of the minds and relay information back and forth via our mouths and vocal cords. What do you say? That's what I would say if this is somebody you love. If this is somebody that's just a tenant, fuck them. You don't need, if it's a problem you don't want to involve yourself with and they already stole something from you, you don't want a cokehead person living in your house. It's not going to cause anything good. It's only going to cause things that are bad. That said, you could still have the discussion with them and be like, listen, this is the reason I'm kicking you out. And by the way, you shouldn't do this because of blah, 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 blah. But, you can get somebody that's in there that's not like that. You know what I'm saying, G? You know what I'm saying, B? Anyway, yeah, I'm feeling a little off today, man. I feel like I'm inside my own head. But the podcast is what the podcast is. So all I really have to say as far as information to relay is that I hope you have a good day, and I hope that you eat a lot of hay. I hope that you don't go astray and get led to some dismay. I have a wide array of... Anyway, be safe out there.